The Galactic Council was a gathering of many old and powerful species. They had ruled the known stars for thousands of years. They believed they understood every kind of new civilization that appeared among the stars. When a young species reached space, the council judged them, measured them, and placed them under rules. If the species obeyed, they were allowed to grow. If they resisted, the council kept them contained. One day, a stream of signals began arriving from a small blue world on the edge of known space. The world was called Earth. Its people called themselves humans. At first, the signals were only curious words about peace, about trade, about cooperation. Most delegates did not even bother to listen. They thought humans were just another young species asking for attention. But the signals kept coming. They were clear, steady, and strangely calm. Humans repeated the same idea in many different ways. They spoke about defense. They spoke about readiness. They said they wished for peace, but they also said they were prepared if peace was denied. The words carried no threat, yet they had a weight that was not easy to ignore. Myra, a junior observer from a quiet council race, was one of the few who listened carefully. She sat in her study chamber, surrounded by floating screens, and replayed the human broadcasts again and again. She noticed something unusual. The humans were not only sending words. They were sending patterns. Their signals had technical details hidden inside ordinary sentences. To most it was noise, but Myra began to see design within the noise. She studied one message about orbiting stations. Within the harmless lines of text, numbers repeated in a rhythm. She ran the numbers through her translator and gasped. They described acceleration values far beyond common plasma weapons. She studied another message, this one about mass and speed, and again found strange values. It was as if the humans were whispering about a weapon that used pure force instead of light. Myra carried her findings to her superior, Counselor Tayron. He was an old member, wise but proud. She explained what she had discovered, but he only smiled and shook his head. Primitive tricks, he said. Every new race hides something in their signals. They want us to think they are stronger than they are. It is nothing new. Plasma and energy beams have ruled war for ages. No crude weapon of mass can compete. But the numbers are precise, Myra said. They repeat in every signal. It cannot be an accident. I believe the humans have built weapons unlike ours. I believe they use force itself. Tayron laughed softly and dismissed her. Myra, you are young. Do not let your curiosity blind you. The Council has seen thousands of races. None have surprised us. Humans will not be the first. Still, Myra could not rest. Each new signal from Earth carried the same strange calm. The humans never begged for acceptance, never tried to flatter the Council. They only repeated their request for recognition, their wish for peace, and their statement of readiness. Other delegates mocked the humans. Some called them noisy children of a backward world. Some ignored the signals entirely. A few even suggested blocking human transmissions, so the council chamber would not be disturbed by constant words of preparedness. But far across the galaxy, human leaders on Earth continued to send their messages. They watched the silence of the council and understood what it meant. They knew the council believed them weak. They knew no help would come. So while they spoke of peace with steady voices, their hands and minds worked to prepare for the storm they knew might arrive. In hidden shipyards around their world, human engineers built strange vessels. Their hulls were thicker than usual, their designs unusual compared to council warships. Their cores were filled not with plasma chambers, but with coils of magnetized metal. Their weapons did not glow with light. Instead, they were silent rails, ready to hurl slugs of solid mass at speeds too great for shields to resist. Myra did not know the full truth yet, but she felt a shadow in her thoughts. She often stood at the window of her chamber, looking out into the endless dark of space, and wondered about Earth. Were the humans really bluffing, as the Council believed? Or were they quietly waiting for the day when the Council's arrogance would bring war to their door? The signals kept flowing, steady as the heartbeat of a planet. "We seek peace," they said. "We are prepared." The Council ignored every word. The chamber filled with laughter, disbelief, and careless pride. And so the first step of the coming storm was taken, not with weapons, but with silence. The humans had spoken. The Council had chosen not to listen. Myra spent many days inside the Great Hall of the Galactic Council, listening to endless debates. The chamber was shaped like a vast circle, with tiers of shining seats that reached high into the walls. Delegates from 100 races spoke with proud voices, each believing their words more important than the others. Most of the time they argued about trade routes, border disputes, or old rivalries that stretched back centuries. The human signals were rarely mentioned. When they were, laughter filled the hall. A tall reptilian delegate claimed humans were simply loud children. Another joked that Earth should be turned into a museum for primitive machines. Even the official records listed humans as a minor spacefaring culture, not worthy of serious concern. Myra sat quietly, her hands folded, her eyes fixed on the glowing screens where new signals from Earth appeared. She was the only one who truly read them. She studied every pattern, every line of numbers, every repeated phrase. The more she read, the more she felt a strange weight in her chest. Humans were not begging. They were not flattering. They were speaking with the calm voice of builders who had finished their work and were now waiting. This was not the tone of the weak. This was the tone of those who had prepared for all outcomes. Late one cycle, Myra stood in the library tower of the council, searching through old records of first contact events. She read about races that had once seemed strong but fell apart when they faced the council fleets. They had used lasers, beams, and plasma cannons, all of which were useless against the advanced shields of the council. None of them had spoken the way humans spoke. None had repeated such quiet warnings. Myra carried her notes to Counselor Tayran once again. He sat in his office, surrounded by crystal maps of star systems, his long robes spread across his seat. Myra bowed slightly and placed the records before him. "Tayran, please," she said softly. "Look at these messages again. Look at the numbers. Look at how steady they are. This is not bluffing. I believe humans have weapons that use force itself. Mass and speed. If that is true, then shields will not stop them." Tayran waved a hand, dismissing the idea. "Myra, you let your imagination carry you away. These humans are clever with words, yes, but they are not clever with science. They are young. They will not surprise us. I will not waste the council's time with ghost stories." "But what if they are not stories?" she asked. "What if we face something we have never faced before?" Tayran leaned back and smiled with calm pride. "The council has ruled for thousands of years. We have the greatest fleets the stars have ever seen. No young world will ever shake that." Myra left the chamber with a heavy heart. She walked alone through the shining halls, past fountains and statues built to honor the power of the council. Yet the more beauty she saw, the less comfort she felt. Great halls could not stop railguns. Pride could not deflect a slug moving faster than sound. On Earth, far away from the Council's arrogance, the humans continued their work. They built ships with thick armor, ugly but strong. They filled them with giant rails that stretched along their hulls. They tested projectiles on hidden ranges in orbit, each test shaking the sky with silent bursts of power. Their leaders met in quiet rooms, watching the stars and speaking of patience. "Keep sending the messages," one leader said. "Let the council know we seek peace. But do not slow the work. They will come. When they do, we must be ready." The engineers nodded. The soldiers nodded. The workers in the shipyards nodded. Every hand that built, every mind that planned, carried the same thought. They hoped for peace, but they built for war. Back in the council chamber, the laughter continued. Delegates ignored the warnings. They turned their attention to old disputes, to trade deals, to matters they thought were more important. The human signals remained background noise, like the hum of a machine that no one bothered to turn off. Only Myra listened. Only she felt the weight. She wrote her thoughts in a private journal, a small device she kept hidden in her robe. Each entry ended with the same words, "We are not prepared." They are. In the silence of her room, Myra often looked at the star map of Earth. A small blue world, turning slowly in the dark. To most it was nothing more than another mark on the chart. To her it was a shadow of coming change. She could not prove it, not yet, but she felt it with every signal that arrived. The humans were not loud children. They were quiet builders. The council might laugh today, but Myra feared the day would soon come when no one would laugh. The day when the truth of the signals would be revealed, not by words, but by fire in the stars. The first time the council fleet crossed into human space, it was not meant as war. At least, that was how Admiral Vero explained it. He commanded a fleet of 12 ships, each one shining with the finest technology of the council. The ships were large, armed with plasma cannons and protected by heavy shields. They had faced rebellions before, crushed pirates, and silenced many young races that resisted council rule. To Vero, this was simply a patrol to remind humans of their place. "Do not fire unless they resist," Vero told his officers. "We are only here to show presence. These humans must learn they are under our watch." The fleet moved through the stars with calm confidence. Their engines burned bright trails in the darkness. To the officers, it felt like routine. Yet as the ships crossed into human territory, something changed. Strange vessels appeared on their scanners. At first glance, the human ships seemed small and crude. Their designs were blocky, their surfaces covered in heavy plating. They lacked the elegance of council vessels, and their engines looked weak. The council officers laughed when they saw them. "These ships cannot even match our scouts," one officer said. "Look at them, covered in metal as if they were afraid of their own shadows." But Admiral Vero frowned. He noticed the way the human ships moved. They did not scatter or flee. They formed a line, silent and steady. No signals came to welcome the council fleet, no voice of fear or surrender. The humans simply waited. Vero opened a channel. "This is Admiral Vero of the Galactic Council. By decree of the Council, you are in violation of controlled space. Stand down your ships and allow inspection. Failure to comply will be treated as defiance." The humans did not answer. Their ships held formation, weapons quiet but ready. Minutes passed. Tension spread across the council fleet. Some officers grew impatient. "They do not even answer. They are simple creatures who do not understand protocol," one said. Or they understand too well, Vero replied. His eyes stayed on the human line. Something about their silence unsettled him. Finally, a signal came. The voice of a human commander filled the council's speakers. The tone was calm, without anger, without fear. This is human territory, the voice said. We request that you leave at once. We do not seek conflict, but we are prepared. Vero's officers scoffed at the words. Prepared, they repeated with mocking laughter. But Vero did not laugh. He remembered the reports, the signals that had reached the council chamber for years. The same words had been spoken then. We are prepared. He gave the order for one of his cruisers to advance and test the humans. The cruiser moved forward, its shields glowing bright, its plasma cannons armed but not yet fired. The human line did not break. Suddenly, one of the human ships lit up with energy. But it was not plasma, not beam, not any kind of weapon the council expected. A rail along its hull glowed with magnetic force. Then a slug of pure metal shot into the void. It crossed the space between ships faster than the council officers could react. The slug hit the cruiser's shield, and to their shock, it passed through as if the shield were mist. A moment later it tore into the hull. The cruiser shook with violent impact, alarms blaring across its decks. The officers stared in disbelief. That is impossible, one shouted. No weapon pierces a council shield. But the humans fired again. Another slug, and another. The cruiser's armor split apart. Fires spread through its systems. The proud vessel, once thought untouchable, broke in silence and drifted as wreckage in the void. The rest of the human ships fired together. Their railguns roared, silent to the ear but deadly in space. Projectiles flew in arcs of light and tore through another council vessel. The shields of the fleet flared and failed. Panic spread among the officers. Return fire, Vero ordered. Plasma beams lit up the dark, striking the human ships. Explosions flared, but when the light cleared, the humans remained. Their armor absorbed the damage, thick and heavy. They fired again, calm and precise. Ship after ship fell. The council fleet, once proud and confident, broke apart under the storm. Vero clenched his fists as his command ship shook. He realized the truth. The humans had not been bluffing. Their words had been real. They had been prepared. The battle lasted minutes, not hours. In the end, half the fleet was destroyed, the rest limping away in retreat. The humans did not chase. They simply held their line, their railguns still glowing, their silence as steady as before. As his ship fled into the dark, Admiral Vero felt a cold weight in his chest. The council would not believe this at first. But he had seen it with his own eyes. Humanity had weapons that could break fleets. And now the galaxy would learn it too. The news of the destroyed fleet spread across the stars faster than the ships themselves could travel. When the report reached the council chamber, the delegates sat in silence at first, unable to believe what they were hearing. A patrol fleet of 12 ships, led by Admiral Vero, had been broken in a matter of minutes. 6 ships were gone, the rest barely escaped, and not a single human vessel had been destroyed. The chamber, usually filled with loud voices and laughter, became heavy with tension. Then, as always, the voices returned, but now they were sharp and angry. This cannot be true, one delegate shouted. No young race can pierce council shields. It was sabotage, another insisted. Perhaps pirates or rebels planted devices in the fleet. Others whispered that Admiral Vero had failed in his duty. Some called him a coward, some accused him of false reports. The council was desperate for an answer that would protect their pride. Myra sat in her seat, watching the storm of arguments. Her heart pounded, for she already knew the truth. The humans had warned them. They had said they were prepared. She had read the numbers, the signals, the patterns. The council had ignored her. Now the proof was written in the wreckage of the fleet. At last, Admiral Vero himself appeared on the central screen. His face was pale, his uniform torn. He spoke with a voice that carried both anger and shame. "The humans are not bluffing," he said. "They have weapons we cannot stop. Projectiles of mass and speed. Our shields do not hold against them. Plasma beams do little against their armor. They fight with precision and calm. They did not chase us. They did not boast. They simply held their line and destroyed us." The chamber erupted again, but this time with fear beneath the shouting. Some demanded immediate retaliation with a larger fleet. Others argued for a blockade of Earth. A few even suggested that humans must be hiding help from an older, hidden power. Myra rose to her feet, her voice breaking through the noise. "You were warned," she said. "The humans told us with every signal. They are not seeking war, but they are ready for it. You ignored them, and now the first fleet has fallen." Many turned to glare at her, but others could not deny the truth. The records of the signals were clear. For years, humans had spoken the same words. Peace if possible, preparation if not. Councillor Taran stood, his voice carrying authority across the chamber. "We cannot allow a young species to humiliate the Council. If we show weakness now, the galaxy will doubt our power. We must respond with strength. We will gather a greater fleet and crush this threat before it grows." Applause followed his words, but it was hollow, filled with fear. Myra looked at the delegates and saw pride struggling against reality. They wanted to believe numbers and firepower would solve everything. They did not yet understand that numbers meant nothing against weapons that ignored their shields. As the council prepared plans for a second fleet, Myra walked alone through the outer halls. She could not shake the image of human ships standing firm against the most advanced navy in the galaxy. The humans had not fought like desperate newcomers. They had fought like soldiers who had trained for this very moment. Back on Earth, the human leaders received news of their victory with calm resolve. There was no celebration, no great speech. The commanders simply reported to their councils. "The first fleet has been driven away," one said. "But more will come. The council cannot accept what happened. They will bring a second wave, stronger than the first. We must continue to build. We must prepare the platforms." In shipyards around Earth, workers moved faster. Railguns were mounted on orbital stations. Massive slugs of tungsten and steel were shaped and stored. Engineers checked the coils again and again, polishing every detail. Soldiers trained with calm focus, knowing the storm would return. The council believed they had time. They believed the second fleet would arrive and end the matter quickly. But the humans were not idle. Every day, every hour, they sharpened their weapons of mass and speed. They did not boast. They did not threaten. Their only message remained the same. "We seek peace. We are prepared." Myra returned to her chamber and wrote another entry in her private journal. Her hand shook as she wrote the words. "The first fleet has fallen. The council will send another. They have not learned. The humans have already learned. I fear for what is coming." She closed the journal and looked once more at the star map of Earth. A small blue world turning quietly in the dark, yet casting a shadow across the entire galaxy. The council chamber had never felt so divided. The fall of the First Fleet weighed heavily on every delegate. Pride and fear battled inside the hearts of those who sat in the shining circle. For ages, the council had believed its fleets to be invincible. Now the loss of 12 ships, half of them destroyed, had shaken that belief to its core. Voices clashed across the chamber. Some shouted that humans must be destroyed before their weapons spread. Others called for peace talks, though few truly believed peace would last. A handful suggested pretending the First Fleet had never gone, hiding the truth from the galaxy. But no one could hide the wreckage floating in human space. Other races were already whispering. If the Council could be defeated, what did that mean for the Order of the Stars? Counselor Tayran stood firm, his voice cutting through the noise. We will not show weakness. The humans are strong, but they are not countless. We will gather a fleet greater than any they have faced. Thousands of ships. We will overwhelm them with power, and the galaxy will see that the Council still rules the stars. Many cheered at his words, clinging to them like a shield. But others remained silent. They remembered Admiral Vero's message. Railguns had torn through shields as if they were air. Armor had broken under the storm of slugs. Plasma fire had done little to stop the human ships. Numbers alone might not change that. Myra listened to it all in silence. Her hands gripped the edge of her seat as she fought to speak. At last she rose, her voice quiet but clear. Counselors, you are blind, she said. The humans warned us again and again. They did not lie. They told us they sought peace, yet they built for war. You believe numbers will save you, but numbers cannot stop weapons that pierce shields. A larger fleet will not bring victory. It will bring disaster. Her words brought laughter from some, anger from others. Tayran glared at her. You speak like one of them, he snapped. Have you forgotten where your loyalty lies? We are the Council. We do not fear young worlds. They must fear us. Myra felt heat rise in her face, but she held her ground. I do not speak like them. I speak the truth you refuse to see. If you go to war again, you will find not children, but survivors who have prepared for this very moment. The chamber erupted again, drowning her voice. Delegates shouted for her removal, while a few others whispered that perhaps she was right. But the decision had already been made. A second fleet would be assembled. It would be the largest the Council had launched in centuries. Far from the Council chamber, on Earth, human leaders met in a quiet room deep within a fortified base. Around them were maps of their world, their stations, and their fleets. The first victory had proven their weapons, but no one celebrated. They knew the Council would not stop. The First Fleet was only a test, said one commander. The next will be larger, stronger, meant to crush us. We must be ready. Another leader nodded. The platforms are nearly complete. Railguns mounted in orbit will give us a wall of fire. If the Council sends 1,000 ships, we will answer with 1,000 slugs for every one. In the shipyards, workers labored day and night. Orbital platforms, massive rings of steel, circled the planet. Each was armed with railguns larger than any mounted on ships. Their barrels stretched like dark towers into space, their coils ready to unleash storms of metal. Beneath the surface of the Earth, factories built more ammunition, shaping slugs from dense metals, preparing them for launch. Soldiers trained aboard ships, learning to fire with calm precision. They drilled until every order was obeyed without hesitation. Engineers checked the coils again and again, making sure nothing failed. Every hand moved with purpose. On the streets of Earth, ordinary people knew what was coming. They listened to the signals their leaders still sent into space. The message never changed. We seek peace. We are prepared. The words spread hope among the people and fear among their enemies. Back in the council chamber, the Second Fleet was being planned. Thousands of ships would gather from across council space. Admirals argued over formations, weapon loads, and strategy. Some wanted to strike quickly, to overwhelm Earth before humans built more. Others wanted to wait until the largest possible fleet could be assembled. Myra sat in silence, watching the pride of the council grow again, stronger than their fear. She wrote another entry in her journal. The council believes numbers will save them. The humans are already ready. I fear the Second Fleet will not return. As the Great Fleet began to form, the galaxy held its breath. Some races whispered that perhaps the humans had been right all along. Others placed their trust in the Council's power. And in the quiet dark of space, the railguns of Earth waited. The Second Fleet was the largest the Council had ever assembled. Thousands of ships moved through space like a river of steel and fire. Each vessel carried advanced plasma weapons, massive shields, and crews trained to follow orders without question. The Council believed that this time, humanity would be crushed before it could respond. Confidence filled the admirals' minds, and pride filled the chamber of the Council. Admiral Vero led the fleet once again. His heart was heavy with the memory of the first defeat. He had learned that humans were not ordinary, yet he also believed in the strength of numbers. This time, he told his officers, we will show them what the Council truly is. We cannot allow a young world to challenge us again. As the fleet approached Earth, a strange silence filled the void. Sensors detected human ships in orbit, small but steady, holding positions like sentinels. At first, the Council fleet thought this was a minor defense, expecting humans to scatter under pressure. But they were wrong. From the dark of orbit, humans opened fire. Railguns on orbital platforms lit up the void with trails of metal moving faster than thought possible. The Council ships were prepared for plasma attacks, not solid projectiles traveling at incredible speed. Shield after shield flickered and broke under the strikes. Explosions shook the Council fleet. Ships collided, twisted, and tumbled in space. Some tried to retreat, but the human projectiles found them. The slugs tore through hulls, splitting vessels as if they were made of paper. The fleet's officers shouted orders, but every strategy seemed powerless. Every attack met with destruction. Hold formation. Admiral Vero commanded. Return fire on the platforms. Plasma beams struck the human stations, but the armor held. Railguns fired again. The Council fleet realized too late that Earth's defenses were not only ships but massive platforms ready for battle. Each platform covered a sector of space, forming a web of destruction. Inside the human command room, leaders watched the battle unfold calmly. The Second Fleet is here, one said. But they will not last long. Engineers monitored the railguns, checking trajectories and speed. Slugs were launched in perfect sequences, each one calculated to hit the fastest and strongest targets. Soldiers aimed from stations aboard ships, their hands steady as they fired. Every human vessel and platform acted as part of a single plan. On the Council side, panic spread. Thousands of ships were now under attack. Officers shouted, trying to organize the fleet, but confusion reigned. Some ships accidentally fired on allies, while others attempted to flee. The humans had turned defense into a precise storm. Their calm efficiency created chaos among the overconfident Council forces. Admiral Vero realized the truth in full. The humans had not only prepared weapons but also tactics that matched their technology. They fought with intelligence, speed, and precision. Every Council advantage was met with a counter that seemed perfectly timed. Minutes became hours, yet the battle continued without pause. The Second Fleet, vast as it was, fell one ship at a time. Railguns struck without warning, tearing through shields and armor. Council pilots who had trained for decades could do nothing. Finally, Vero's command ship was hit. Alarms blared as hull breaches spread fires through the corridors. He watched the remaining fleet struggle and break apart. He gave the order to retreat, but it was a retreat into a battlefield already scarred by destruction. Ships that survived were damaged, exhausted, and demoralized. Back on Earth, human leaders watched silently. The world itself seemed calm beneath them, unaware of the violence above. Their message remained unchanged: we seek peace. We are prepared. The words were a quiet warning to the galaxy, a statement of both restraint and power. Admiral Vero knew the Council could not ignore reality any longer. Humanity had proven itself. They were not weak. They were not primitive. They were not a race to dismiss. The humans had taken the galaxy's most powerful fleet and shattered it with weapons no one had expected. When the last of the surviving Council ships limped away from Earth, the humans ceased fire. Their line held. Their railguns glowed, but no more were fired. The battle was over, and the message was clear. Humanity was no longer a young race to be ignored. They were a force that could defend themselves and strike with unmatched precision. Myra watched the reports from the Council chamber, her heart heavy but relieved. She had known humans were different. She had warned the Council, but no one listened. Now the galaxy had seen the truth. She wrote in her journal, "The second wave has fallen. The humans do not seek conquest, but they are ready for any threat. The Council has learned that arrogance can no longer hide reality." In the quiet darkness of space, the human fleet held position. The stars around Earth reflected off their hulls. Calm, patient, and prepared, they waited for whatever challenge might come next. The Council chamber was filled with tension the moment news arrived. The Second Fleet had failed. Thousands of ships, the largest fleet ever assembled, had been turned back by the humans. The delegates, once proud and certain, now whispered in fear. Some refused to believe it. Others could not hide the look of shock in their eyes. Councillor Tayran, who had long held the belief in the Council's invincibility, stood trembling. His voice, usually strong, shook as he spoke. "We have been defeated. The humans, they have weapons and tactics we could not match. How could this happen?" Myra rose, standing tall despite the weight of history pressing down. "You were warned," she said. "They told us repeatedly. They said they sought peace, yet they were prepared. You ignored the truth. Now the galaxy has seen the cost." Silence fell over the chamber. Many delegates avoided looking at her. Some stared at their data screens, unwilling to face what the sensors confirmed. Humanity had not only defended their world but had done so with efficiency, intelligence, and calm precision. Every Council assumption about their strength had been shattered. A vote was called to decide the next course of action. Hundreds of delegates debated in hushed tones. Some wanted to gather another fleet, but few had the courage to suggest it openly. The cost would be enormous, and the humans had already proven their weapons unmatched. Others suggested declaring humanity a sovereign power, recognizing them officially to avoid further losses. Finally, the vote was held. It was not unanimous, but it passed. Humanity would be recognized. The council had no choice. The young race that had been dismissed and ignored was now officially part of the galaxy's balance of power. On Earth, human leaders received the message quietly. There was no celebration, no cheering. Their work was not done. More railguns were mounted, more ammunition prepared. Every station and ship was checked, and every crew member drilled again. Peace had been granted, but readiness would never end. We asked for peace, one human leader said. We prepared for war. The galaxy chose its path. Now they know who we are. In the council chamber, Myra watched as the senior delegates sent official messages of recognition to Earth. The words were formal, polite, and careful. Humanity was acknowledged as a sovereign power, its borders respected, its strength feared. No one could ignore them again. Some delegates tried to understand what had happened. They studied the reports of railgun fire, the orbital platforms, the disciplined human tactics. For the first time, they realized that speed, mass, and precision could be more deadly than energy beams or plasma. They studied the humans' calm, organized defense and saw the wisdom in preparation and patience. Admiral Vero appeared again on the central screen. His face was pale but serious. I underestimated them, he admitted. The humans are not reckless, and they are not weak. They are disciplined, prepared, and intelligent. We have much to learn from them, and much to fear if we do not respect them. Myra nodded quietly. She had hoped the council would learn humility, that they would see the truth before more blood was spilled. Now, at last, recognition had come. Humanity had not sought conquest, yet they had commanded respect through strength, preparation, and calm resolve. Across the galaxy, races that had watched the battles unfold began to change their views. Many had mocked humans as primitive, small, and weak. Now, the whisper of their strength spread like fire. Humans had proven that intelligence, engineering, and preparation could surpass arrogance and raw power. On Earth, the sky was calm, and the stars reflected silently in the waters of the oceans. The humans continued their work, maintaining their fleets and stations, but always with careful restraint. Their message remained the same. We seek peace. We are prepared. In the council chamber, Myra wrote her final note in her private journal. The council has learned humility. Humanity has been recognized. They did not seek war, yet they have shown the galaxy their strength. This is only the beginning. The future will be theirs to shape, and all who underestimated them will remember. The galaxy had changed forever. Humans were no longer dismissed as weak newcomers. They were survivors, engineers, and warriors. Their railguns and discipline had shattered the pride of 1,000 worlds. And now, the Council and the stars themselves would think twice before ignoring any signal from Earth. In quiet orbit, the human fleet rested, engines humming softly. The platforms stood ready, the weapons loaded, and the crews alert. They had defended their world and secured their place in the galaxy. Humanity had earned respect not through fear, but through preparation, courage, and wisdom. The Council could no longer ignore them. The galaxy would never be the same.